Is it true that new home builders are cutting corners? Stay tuned because I will be revealing with you the harsh truth about going with new construction and facing the nightmares of defects after closing and moving into your new home. New home construction has been booming as builders try to meet the demand and address the low inventory in the housing market. Persistent low inventory, rock bottom interest rate, and loosening pandemic restrictions has made the last couple of years a very busy buying season. While there are many home builders who pride themselves on the quality and the integrity of every home, there are also large production home builders who are cutting costs to build these homes very quickly so that they could get sold fast. Sometimes these shortcuts are obvious from the beginning, and other times these shortcuts are apparent after many years after closing. To answer your question, Kaori, are new home builders cutting corners? The answer is yes. Let me address the ways in new home builders are cutting corners. Let me share with you some examples that my buyers have experienced firsthand and what I have also heard from my other colleagues here at Sotheby's and what they're experiencing and how you can avoid them. Watch till the very end of this video because I will be sharing with you my tips and recommendations on how to avoid these issues. Here are 6 sneaky ways that new builders are cutting corners. Number 1. Substituting with cheaper material. This can apply from kitchen countertops to roofing to even insulation. Builders may be purchasing these low-graded materials to cut costs. I have had buyers experience window defects from a luxury home builder in town. After my buyers had moved into their brand new home with super excitement, the builder had to replace their windows not just once, but twice. After the second time around, and with all of the neighbors being very upset about this situation, the luxury builder decided to source windows from another supplier. Number 2, skipping crucial steps. This happens in places we cannot see. For example, they may nail the framing into the foundation instead of using bolts, paint the walls without priming them, or use nails instead of nails and screws for the sheetrock. These are all basic fundamentals of construction. And can you only imagine the long-term effect that this will have on your beautiful brand new home? I have personally experienced firsthand very bad paint job. And usually at our final walk with the builder, that is when we mark up the home with tape for all the cosmetic retouches that needs to be done, especially painting before closing. And it's just very frustrating for my buyers and I to see all this paintwork not being completed before the signing and the closing of their brand new home. In many cases, I've had buyers that had to call the painters over multiple times, not just once, twice, or 3 times. More than that, in order to get their painting, whether it's interior walls or exterior walls, perfectly painted. Number 3, hiring unskilled labor. Labor makes up a huge portion of builder costs, and hiring skilled professionals are much more costly than hiring inexperienced laborers. The problem is inexperienced and low-paid workers don't have the expertise to build a quality home. Don't be afraid to ask specific questions about the experience of their workers to the builders. How long have these workers been working with this particular builder? Do these workers have the experience building the quality home by the builders in this other neighborhood? Does the builder employ long-term employers, or do they only work with short-term, part-time workers? What training and certifications do these workers have? What is their average wage? By the way, if we haven't met yet, konnichiwa, my name is Kaori Nagao, your Las Vegas lifestyle specialist, helping you find your new home. Whether it's a new construction or a resale home, I am here for you to assist you through the whole process of home buying and home ownership. I really appreciate you watching my channel. I hope these videos are educational for you. And for those of you that are thinking about relocating to Las Vegas and Henderson, make sure you comment below and contact me. It will be my absolute pleasure to help you along the way. Now let's keep going. Number 4, focusing on the amenities and not the quality. Amenities are great, no doubt. We all want high-end appliances, beautiful cabinets, and upgraded flooring. Builders know that, so sometimes they cut corners on the integrity and the quality of the structure of the homes so that they could enhance with all the highly upgrades that you could see and touch and feel in person in order to offer higher-end upgrades. Luxury upgrades come with a cost, but they should never come at the cost of craftsmanship. If the price of all these upgrades seems suspiciously low, consider what might be sacrificed in order to get that price. That quartz countertop that you had upgraded won't look so good if your foundation starts cracking. I heard about a buyer who had experienced a 35-foot crack from their kitchen all the way to their living room on the news. Can you guess how long it took the builder to fix that? Over 2 weeks. Now that's a big inconvenience, wouldn't you think? Number 5, installing inadequate systems. All the systems in the home needs to be adequately sized and perfectly fitted for that particular home. Builders might try to install a too small septic, substandard plumbing, furnaces and AC units that are much smaller than the capability to power the home. Again, this is where you need to be proactive to ask the builder some of these questions. Is this HVAC large enough to power my entire home? Maybe you have a 3-story home. I just had a closing with a buyer who just purchased a 3-story home, and they have 2 large HVAC units. One unit that actually powers the 1st and 2nd floor, and the 2nd unit that's slightly smaller that powers the 3rd floor. But this is where you need to ask those questions to the builders. And when you do have that final walk with the builder, and usually with their superintendent, that's when you need to have your professional realtor who has experience in new construction and yourself as a buyer to ask these questions to these builders. Incorrect installation. This is a consequence of hiring unskilled and unexperienced labor, or the builder not wanting to take the time to go through the entire construction process. They may even be rushing through the process so they can meet their quota for the end of the month. For instance, a roof could look perfectly fine, but then it starts experiencing leaking, or loose shingles during an inclement weather or a storm. The same could happen with windows, floorings, and even appliances. If they are installed improperly, to save time or money by the builders, you may soon find yourself dealing with all those issues after closing and moving into your brand new home. Here are some examples of incorrect installations that my buyers and I have personally experienced in the last year. Number 1, kitchen cabinets being installed backwards. Number 2, sliding doors being installed upside down. Number 3, tiles with low-high issues. The leveling has not been met. Number 4, AC units being wobbly. Number 5, front pivot door with a huge air gap on the bottom where you can't shut your front door properly. Number 6, the heaters won't turn on properly. Turns out the builder did not add a gas line to the furnace. I mean, these are just all these issues that could be resolved before closing if you had a builder that takes their time and that took consideration of the quality and integrity of their new construction. What questions do you have for new construction? For every question I get, I'll make sure to reply with a video message. Now let's keep going. So now what? Here are 4 tips and recommendations in order to avoid this whole process with construction defects when purchasing a new construction. Number 1, attend the frame walk with your realtor. Prior to drywall of your home, there is an invitation for you and your realtor to attend a frame walk. At frame walk, you are greeted with the superintendent of the builder, and the superintendent will walk you through the home to make sure that the home has been built based on your specifications and structural upgrades. This is an opportunity for you to check on the house, make sure all the rooms are placed in the right area based on the floor plan you chose, making sure all that the electrical, plumbing, HVAC is all in place. Maybe you had made an upgrade, for example, in the laundry room to add a sink. That's when you go to the laundry room to make sure that there's plumbing underneath for the sink. I highly recommend not skipping on this frame walk because I've had my buyers identify some things at frame walk that was incorrect, and we addressed it with the builder right there so that they were able to fix it right away. Imagine having to go through that process after drywall on your final inspection or final walkthrough. You would have saved so much time if you had attended that frame walk. Wouldn't you think? Anything odd about the home that you see, make sure you bring it up to your superintendent. For example, I was doing a frame walk with a buyer, and we noticed an area when we were walking, we heard some squeaky noises. there's definitely something wrong with the foundation. So we made sure we made a note of that and identified that with the superintendent so that he could check on it. And then when we went back for the final walk, we were able to recheck to make sure there were no squeaky noises in the foundation. Number 2, hire a professional home inspector to inspect the home before closing. This is usually scheduled a few days before the final walk with the builder. The professional inspector will go through the home and make sure that every outlet and the electrical works fine, make sure that the HVAC and the AC unit works okay, goes through everything through the house. And what I especially like about the home inspector is that they have an eye for everything that needs to be right with the home. Us as a buyer or myself as a realtor, we're very limited. So having a professional home inspector goes a long way. They will even go into the attic to make sure that the insulation is per code. They will check everything and make sure everything works properly. The home inspector, after the home inspection, which usually takes anywhere from 1 to 2 hours depending on the size of the home, they will then issue a full inspection report. In that inspection report, they will identify all the issues with the home, and that report, as your realtor, I will then send it to the builder so that they could address everything on that report before the final walk and before the closing of that new construction. Just as an example, I just completed a home inspection for my new construction buyer, and this is how it looks like. In this particular report, we go through all the summary points, as you can see here. And one of the things that we realized that the builder had cut corners. Can you guess what that is? It was actually insulation. And of course, if you don't hire a professional home inspector, we, as the buyer and the realtor, we won't bring our ladder to go up into the attic to see what's going on up there. So that's an area I highly recommend inspectors to double check, because in this particular case, it was not at code. Our code for insulation is R30, and it was just mind-boggling to see the photos of what the attic looked like because they almost had zero insulation in the attic. So make sure you go through that process to hire a home inspector. Another thing to note is that a lot of these new home construction builders don't really like a third-party home inspector to come. So in order to avoid that, you need to go through a scheduling process. And some of these builders will require a few weeks or even 2 months prior to closing to schedule this inspection. So make sure you communicate as your realtor. I always do with all my new home buyers. Make sure you communicate with your realtor that you are interested in this home inspection, and make sure your realtor communicates that to the builder so that is already scheduled and on the books so that they don't have an excuse not to do it because you didn't schedule it in advance. Number 3, have the same inspector that inspected your home come back for re-inspection after the builder has made all those repairs before closing. My recommendation is to delay closing if you are not 100% comfortable with closing with some outstanding repairs that needs to be done by the builder. Sometimes there might be some items that needs repair work by the builder that has a long lead time. Just to give you an example, one of my buyers had to wait for his shower enclosure glass because there was a lead time for that. Originally, when we were closing, the builder had said it will take no more than a week for that to come in stock and installed into his home. The reality was it actually took 2 to 3 weeks for that piece of glass to come and get installed by the builder. So my buyer was unable to take a shower for all that time. So it's a big inconvenience. So as long as you're 100% comfortable with the condition of the home, at closing, I will say it will be okay for you to fund, sign, and record and close and get those keys to your new home. Number 4, work with a professional realtor that has experience and the expertise in new construction home purchasing. If you plan to hire a realtor, make sure when you're interviewing these realtors, ask them these questions. How many new homes have you gone under contract in the last year? What builders do you have the most experience with? The more experienced these realtors are with new construction, they will know all the right questions to ask the builder to ensure that your process goes smoothly, and also negotiate when it comes to the purchase agreement for your new construction. For those of you who are looking to budget for your new construction, make sure to check out this video, 6 upgrades to avoid when purchasing a new construction. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and see you on the next one.